So we're going to take same pattern, 113, and we're going to add a little ruffle to it. And it makes it look like a little skirt on the bottom. Oh, it's so cute. It's so comfortable. I love it. I'll show you how. So this is a Monday, and we're reversing the order a little bit. I've made the garment, and then I'm going to work it backwards. And remember, on Mondays, I'm trying to kind of bring you a little bit of pattern work, only because I love patterns, and I keep thinking that you all will too. And while I say that, I know some of you hate patterns, but with a few little changes, it's just amazing, I think, what can be brought out. So this is my top today. I love it. I saw it in Nordstrom's. I thought, oh my gosh, that's like my top, but just fullness has been added. You know, the little layer, they've been spread and all. So I just think it's just so cute. And if you're not watching anymore, then you didn't think it was cute. And if you're still watching, I'm going to show you how to do it. Because it's fun. It's easy. And I had made it a little while ago, and I kept thinking, because I liked it, and I kept thinking, oh, it's probably too much work. But it's really not. As I thought about it, and I've tried to make it simple for you. So if you're ready, let's get going. The base is 113 at Sunny's top. And quick story on this. Sunny is an ASG member in Southern California. And we used to have, Silhouette Patterns used to own these little workshops. They were called ETA, and it was ETA California that we were at. And they were just educational things. And it was at the Hyatt Hotel in Southern California. I guess none of those details matter. But anyway, I already had new patterns for spring at that time. And she said, you've got to come to my room. I've got this top, and it's like the cutest top ever. So I went to her room, and sure enough, it was the exact same top. I mean, maybe not exact, but we had already done it. It was already going to be a pattern. But nonetheless, we decided we would name the pattern Sunny's Top. So it's a great top. The one comment I've gotten back is, gosh, I don't have a figure for it. Doesn't matter. Especially with this version, it really it doesn't skim the body so much. It's not as tight on the body. And so I think hopefully you'll really like it. All right, so what I did is I started with the 4 colors I wanted, and you can do the same thing. And also, I've seen it made up where all 4 were the same color. That's adorable too. So just keep that in mind. And I think it's a great top to do for scraps, because if you've got a half yard of this and a half yard of that, and you liked them all, you put them all together. It does have to be knits because the base is a knit, and otherwise, I mean, these probably don't have to. The top would have to be a knit. You can play with it and see what you come up with. So these are the 4 colors I did. And obviously you want the lighter color at the top. I did a white and a gray and a charcoal and a black. And just put them together so you can look at them and say, do I like that color? Because that's really what your top's going to look like. And I love those colors. So that's why I decided. We have all of them in stock, and it's hard to have solid knits. It's hard to keep them in stock because they sell so fast. So it's nice when we have all 4 of them, and we do. Cottons and rayons combined, they really are a lot of fun. All right, so now we've talked about our pattern, and we've talked about our fabric that we want, and now we're going to talk about how we're going to do this. It's a common known fact in making patterns for adults that anytime you do easing, or not easing, gathering or fullness, it's a 1.5 to 1. So what that means is I can take the original amount, that would be the 1, add half of it again, and end up with 1.5 to 1. And that's generally a fullness that you'll find that is very common on adult ready-to-wear. Children's are usually 2 to 1, they're more. But with adults, 1.5 to 1, I have always found that's a great number, and I really like it. So what I did when I did this top is you build it, when you follow the directions, you build it from the bottom up. So I actually dealt with the black pieces first. I went black, charcoal, gray, and white. And so all you want to do with this is I'm going to copy the piece. So I've got my paper out, I'm assuming you want to copy the piece. I didn't want to ruin my original. And when you do that, try to find a straight edge and put one on the straight edge because it's a lot easier. And then the center front and center back is always marked. And then the other thing you want to change, you want to not change, is this pattern is really well notched on the sides. And the reason you want to keep that is when you go to put it together, you want your sides to match. You know, I mean, it's all asymmetric, but it's not. It's well matched from front to back. And so these pieces will match all the way down. And you want to make sure you have your markings because those are not going to change. All right, so I'm making those. And then also what I'm doing is I'm marking my center line because when I add my fullness, I want to make sure I'm adding on both sides of the center. I actually want to just make sure that my fullness is evenly distributed. That's kind of the key. I don't want all of it in one place. So we're just going to show you how to do this. And again, what I did is I cut out the base. My entire base is white. And then I cut out the black. I did the black first. I went and sewed the black. Because also, in sewing it, like the black I sewed on with black thread. And the gray I sewed on with black thread. And then I changed the thread to white. So that way I started with black thread. I changed it to white. And I only had to change my thread one time. And it matches everywhere. So I liked, you know, when I look at the inside, I like that also. All right. So here's my piece. I've marked the center. And I've done my notches. So this particular piece is actually the gray. Not the black, not the charcoal, not the gray. But they're all done the same. So I'm going to show you on one, and then I'm going to show you an easy way, and I'm going to show you a little more time consuming. And then you can decide which one you want to do. And I'll tell you which one I did. So the whole goal is to just have fun with this project. It took me about 2 hours to do all the pattern work and make the top. So it's really quick and easy. So I'm going to measure the bottom. And when I measure the bottom, that piece comes to 16, 17. And take half of that. I took 8, added it together, is 25. All right, so 25 is what I want to end up with this bottom piece being, is 25. So this is actually the piece I did. I'll lay it on top so you can kind of compare. And what you can see is here's my center front line. Remember, I want to mark that. And I did 4 cuts on this side, and I did 4 cuts on this side. There's nothing magical about 8 cuts. But again, because I wanted to add 8 inches, I decided to have approximately that many cuts, and then I would spread each one 1 inch. All right, and as you spread it, I took a tape measure and I measured the bottom because remember, I want the bottom to be about 25. Notice the top is not changing, and the shape of it's changing, but once I hold it out, that's what will cause this to do the rippling that it does, because the top is the same length and it will sew in exactly the same. The sides are not changing. They're going to be exactly the same. And because this is my light gray piece, I'll lay it on the light gray. When you lay out your fabric, make sure the greatest part of stretch is going around. Make sure each of these pieces are the side up. In other words, all of these overlay pieces, when you have the pattern, they're all cut 1. And so you have to make sure that you put that pattern piece that face up. You can't turn them around. You can't turn them different directions. So in this case, I'm going to put this on the right side of the fabric. I'm going to open it up. And this is the fast way. I hate to call it the lazy way because it's not lazy. It's faster. Because your paper will kind of stick to the fabric. And when I measure this bottom, I just want to make sure it's 25. Keep in mind, 25 is not hard and fast. If it were 24 and a half, it wouldn't matter. And so that's all I have to do to get the piece. So when I cut it out, I'm going to cut up the side because that needs to be accurate. I'll put that back. I'm going to cut the sew line. This is how I did it. And I found my pieces to be not only really accurate, but I found this to be really quick. All right, and again, if you push it around, you can put it back on where it's supposed to be. And even if these are not distributed exactly at 1 inch, that doesn't matter. The goal, again, is to simply use them to follow the length that the piece is supposed to be. So I'm going to start cutting over here. And you can see I'm just cutting like right below these pieces. So it makes a nice smooth piece. And there it is. I have to make sure that I put this side up, that I notch the side, and that's that piece. Okay, really fun and really simple to do. So you need to make sure that the piece is up. You can't change it. Notch the sides so you'll see they just come in. And you'll also see when you sew front to back that the sides will match. You don't want them kind of, I think it's enough asymmetric that if you have too much asymmetric, it looks like a mess rather than it just being neatly done. Now the other way to do it, and what I did is when I took the front piece and I started with this front piece. All right, and I laid it there. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so I started with the front piece. Oh, what did I do here? Oh, that's the back. No wonder it doesn't work. I couldn't figure out why. Sorry. So I laid the back. I traced it. And notice that it changes where everything is in order to make those ruffles. Those ruffles are going to be incorporated into the garment. So you don't want to just cut it wider at the bottom. That's just not correct pattern work, which is why I'm showing you this. You can see that everything changes. The angles change. Everything changes. Obviously in the garment it doesn't change because it's back hanging down and it restores its natural self. But that's the beauty of understanding the pattern work. You start to understand how the pattern changes and why the pattern changes to make exactly what it is. So again, I measured the bottom. I put what it was. It's 16, and I did half of that, which is 8. I added that together, and I want this to be 24, so I spread it. I actually put this on a new piece of paper and taped it down. You can do it that way. Whatever way you feel more secure in doing it, it doesn't make a difference. So go through each of those pieces. All 4 pieces are going to be spread, and then notch the sides so that they fit and match, and decide upon your colors that you want to use. And I love it. I just really like it. It's really fun, and I think it's very flattering. The only other thing I want to talk to you about is because I've had this question plenty of times, is if I'm shorter, how do I make it shorter? And I would say the most that I've seen someone take it away is 4 inches. And that's because, let's say, and it says in the directions that the pattern was made for someone 5'8". Well, if you're 5 feet, you're not half of 5'8", and you don't take away 8 inches because you're only dealing with the upper part of your body. So theoretically, let's say we take away 4 inches. On the base itself, and this is the base, I would take the 4 inches off of the bottom. And then what I would do is I wouldn't take off the top piece at all, because most women, in fact all women, the bust point doesn't change. And I don't even need to go into that. But anyway, it's the same. So 12 inches, 13 inches, it's really, really common. So I wouldn't take off the top piece, otherwise it'll end at the bust. So leave the top piece and take the other 4 inches and divide by the other 3 pieces. It will not look out of funky. It will not look out of a line. It will look just fine because your body's proportioned and the top will be proportioned as well. So take the 4 inches off. What I would do is maybe only take 3 inches off and then take an inch off each of those pieces. I would take the inch off the gray, an inch off the charcoal, and an inch off the black, and leave the white like it is. That's what I would recommend. Again, because you can always cut it off. if it's too long, and you can't go back and add it if in fact it's not. The other thing I would recommend is I didn't finish any of the edges, and I love it like that. I just think it's more contemporary to just leave those edges cut off and let them go exactly like they are. All right? So the goal is to take the same pattern and make a completely different look out of it and to have a whole lot of fun. So happy sewing from Silhouette Patterns.